The proposed summit between President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Budapest, Hungary, has been abruptly canceled or shelved by the White House just days after it was announced. The core reason for the postponement stems from a fundamental and seemingly unbridgeable diplomatic deadlock over the path to ending the war in Ukraine, with Trump stating he did not want a wasted meeting. Summary and analysis. The cancellation represents the failure of a rapid-fire diplomatic push by President Trump to broker a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine war. Following a phone call with Putin and a subsequent reportedly tense meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Trump had declared a summit would take place in Budapest within 2 weeks. The objective was to secure an immediate ceasefire based on the current front lines, a position backed by Kyiv and its European allies, in exchange for halting the conflict. However, the preparatory call between U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov quickly exposed the vast gulf between the two sides. Russia's publicly stated position remained that it was not interested in a mere temporary ceasefire or freezing the current battle lines. Instead, Moscow insists on a comprehensive resolution that addresses the root causes of the conflict, which, in Kremlin terminology, means meeting its maximalist demands, including the demilitarization of Ukraine and the recognition of its claims over Ukrainian territory. The White House ultimately concluded that with Russia unwilling to shift its position, a leader-level summit would be unnecessary and non-productive, thereby confirming the cancellation. Reasons for the cancellation. The failure to establish common ground during the preparatory talks highlights the key sticking point: Russia's maximalist demands. The primary reason is Russia's refusal to accept a simple freeze along the current line of contact. Lavrov made it clear that Moscow wants a long-term, sustainable peace that addresses the root causes, a clear reference to their non-starter demands for a demilitarized, non-NATO Ukraine and its full control of annexed regions. Avoiding a wasted meeting, Trump himself stated he did not want a wasted meeting. Having already held a prior summit in Alaska in August that yielded no concrete breakthrough, the administration did not want to risk a high-profile, now fruitless repeat that would be perceived as a win for Putin, allowing him a platform on a NATO ally's soil without offering concessions. The ceasefire impasse, Trump's latest peace proposal, centered on both sides stopping the conflict at the existing battle line. Russia's rejection of an immediate ceasefire without larger concessions confirmed that the two leaders were too far apart to make a summit viable. Consequences and prediction. Consequences. Prolonged conflict. The immediate and most significant consequence is that the war in Ukraine will continue without a diplomatic off-ramp, as the principal mediators failed to agree on the terms of a meeting. Relief for European allies. The cancellation is a relief for Ukraine and its European partners who were uneasy about Budapest, a Russia-friendly NATO member, hosting the talks, especially with the potential for the Hungarian government to disregard the ICC warrant against Putin. It reinforces the Western alliance's preferred position that Moscow is not serious about peace without major territorial concessions. Waning diplomatic momentum. Trump's personal chemistry approach to diplomacy has been severely hampered, underscoring the reality that the personal rapport he boasts of with Putin has failed to secure substantive concessions to end the war. Prediction. The conflict will likely escalate on the battlefield in the short term, as both sides realize that a negotiated settlement is not imminent. The U.S. will likely shift its focus back to coordinating military and economic pressure on Russia with NATO allies. Future diplomatic engagement, if it happens, will be lower level and incremental, avoiding high-profile, hastily arranged presidential summits until a clear and documented basis for a major breakthrough is established. The topic of long-range missile supply to Ukraine may be revisited as a new form of leverage to compel Moscow to negotiate seriously. Solutions. Since the impasse is rooted in the vast difference between the two sides' maximalist positions, any successful solution must be built on increasing leverage and finding a mutual off-ramp. Increase leverage. US-NATO. The US and NATO allies must increase the cost of war for Russia by finally agreeing to supply high-impact, long-range weaponry, like Tomahawk missiles, to Ukraine. This pressure is what Zelensky and some analysts believe forces Putin to the negotiating table. Unified diplomatic front. The U.S. should stop making unilateral peace proposals that change day to day and instead commit to a unified negotiating strategy with its European partners. This would remove the opportunity for Moscow to exploit divisions and seek a more favorable bilateral deal with Washington. Clarify the off-ramp. A clear, non-negotiable end goal must be established. This is likely the freeze-in-place ceasefire initially proposed, but it must be coupled with an immediate and high-stakes sanctions threat, e.g. cutting off all remaining Russian energy exports to willing partners that would activate if the ceasefire is violated. The reconstruction funds from frozen Russian assets should be explicitly tied to this off-ramp to incentivize a halt to the fighting. The abrupt shelving of the Budapest summit confirms that, for now, the path to peace remains blocked by the chasm between Russia's desire for capitulation and Ukraine's insistence on its sovereignty.